Hello, and welcome to Beastly Talks. I'm your host, Stian Helling, and this is a podcast that is going to be all about dogs. Dog training, dog behavior, puppy development, separation anxiety, aggression, anything that I can think of that might interest you as the listener to know about dogs and how I approach dog training. Now, this is a couple of short episodes that I'm doing to kind of introduce who I am and talk a little bit about what I do, how I got into training, and so on and so forth. And I've called this my villain story because my entry into dog training was not super pleasant in any way, form, or shape. And it's very easy to get sucked into dog training when you first get started, because when you actually realize that there are massive world famous dog trainers everywhere, and there's a whole community that you just never really expected for something like dog training. And I see a lot of people get sucked very deeply into it, and they become part of the whole tribal warring thing very easily, where you find your crew and you find your method of training, and very quickly things kind of go a little bit downhill from there. And this exact thing happened to me as well, which is why I'm kind of talking about it. Like, I wish in the early stages of getting into dog training that I wouldn't have involved myself with the internet space as much as I did. There was not really much good that came out of it in the end. But hindsight's always 2020. That's one of those funny things that is always, I guess, some deity making a practical joke on you 24/7. But yeah, so I want to talk a little bit about how I got into dog training and why I don't really interact with the dog training space much anymore. I kind of just do my own thing. But I guess a couple of things that's important to know about me is I've always considered myself a giver. I love giving, I love helping, and I hate asking for anything in return. And the downside to being a giver is 90% of people are eventually going to take advantage of you and exploit you. And that's kind of what happened to me a lot in the dog training space, and why I also don't really involve myself with the dog training space anymore. But we'll get to that a little bit later. But I have very strong opinions on things. I don't really do ego at all. I don't try to please people. I just want what's right to be right. That's just the personality I am. And I'm very much a lone wolf type person. Anything I've ever done in my life, I have more or less done completely by myself. Anything that I've been successful at, I should say, I have kind of done by myself. And yeah, that makes you very easy not to like in this industry. So I guess this is where my villain story begins. But yeah, after I finished NDTF, so National Dog Trainers Federation, I got in contact with someone who became a mentor of mine, which later on ended up stealing one of my clients' dogs under false pretenses. And I'm not going to go any deeper into it than that, but essentially, she lied to me and she lied to my client, and she ended up stealing a German Shepherd for her own benefit. And that was kind of my first introduction into the dog space, and that is not a very good one. As you can imagine, I was headhunted pretty early on to start working for a company. And the second I got into this job, I very quickly realized that the whole company was based around competition and pitting people against each other. There was no friendliness. There was nothing like that. It was just, win competitions, do this, become famous, blah, 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 which is just not me at all. And so we were actually told by the boss at this place that we were not dog trainers, we were salespeople. And our job was to just sell, 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 whether the client needed it or not. And let's just say I didn't last very long in that. So again, I very quickly went back to being a lone wolf, which is what I do. And again, this is where I succeed by being by myself. And that is why I'm sitting in an empty room now, speaking to a microphone, because I kind of do all of this shit by myself. But anyways, I went back to being a lone wolf and I just doubled down. I doubled down on marketing my company. I was on the road 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. I was busting my ass. I was seeing all these dogs and I was taking on anything to start off with, like any job, any dog, and I still do to this day, but I've fallen into I guess working more with aggressive dogs than anything else because I work with a lot of high drive dogs. The issues they tend to have is frustration, is anxiety from a lack of biological fulfillment, which a lot of this turns into aggression. Now, there are a lot of people, or a lot of trainers, I should say, who say they work with aggression and reactivity, but don't actually do the work. And I was hearing so many bad stories. Again, I was rocking up to 3, 4, 5 jobs a day when I was working at my worst, and I was permanently a permanently exhausted pigeon, just kind of trudging through life, but trying to help as many people as I could. And a lot of the people that I went to had had trainers before, and they were telling me these horror stories of trainers rocking up and whether they were yanking, cranking dogs, whether they were just throwing food on the floor and saying that the dog had to be euthanized because it wouldn't eat. Um, there was people bragging about what they'd done in the past, but not actually touching any of the dogs. They were berating the owners for being useless owners, and there were also trainers that were not showing up, but still keeping the money that had been paid up front. And I was kind of horrified by all of this, and I decided that like this will not be me. You know, I if I make a promise, I will show up. And again, you know, there's been a couple of times where I've had to cancel jobs because I've been sick or whatever, and I feel horrible because I'm not getting to help these people in the timeline that I had promised them. But but yeah, all this ego, I guess, is getting the best of people, and I think a lot of these people are either too far stuck in an ideology, or their ego doesn't allow them to ever be told that they're wrong. Another reason why a lot of people don't like me. But you know, here we go. I also heard from a lot of students that they were working with organizations that were promising them all kinds of stuff. Like if they only did a little bit of free work for them, they would train them up to be trainers and blah blah blah. And these people were working their asses off for free for 6 to 9 months before being told that, hey, actually we can't train you up as a dog trainer because we can't give away industry secrets. And when I heard that, I decided that I was going to start training trainers, like start training students, I guess I should say myself. And so I put together a short 4 hour workshop, like a half day workshop on reactivity and aggression. Um, I should call it a seminar, not a workshop, because we didn't actually have dogs there. It was literally theory, and more new trainers and training students started coming to me, and I was helping out more and more people, and I realized that I actually loved teaching people. Like I didn't just love teaching dogs, I loved teaching people how to teach their dogs as well. And so I started focusing more and more on that side of things. And Yeah, man, the stories that were told to me, obviously I can't verify whether they're true or not, but I don't really understand why they wouldn't be, because I don't really see any benefit in anyone lying about this. But yeah, um, it was crazy out there. I can tell you that. But I guess one thing that disheartened me a lot was the more people I helped, the more I ended up getting screwed over in the end. And I look, I don't know why. I'm sure it's got something to do with me and my personality, as well as what the other people I was helping were out after. But I got to a point where I started helping people less because I was putting myself in all these situations where, at the end of the day, nothing really benefited me. Right? It was just people would take and take and take, and then the second you disagreed with them, they would call you an asshole and just kind of walk away. Now, again, I'm by no means a perfect human being, right? So I'm sure part of something that I said or did was had something to do with the fact that I made that decision. But I kind of, again, reverted back to my lone wolf mentality where I always found more success in just being by myself. And yeah, like I had trainers who I bent over backwards to help them get dogs for their workshops, right? Because they couldn't find the right dog to demonstrate things on. And I managed to get it for them. And when I asked if I was allowed to come along, I was told no because I didn't buy a ticket, right? And the whole social media thing just got worse and worse. I started getting threats from all around the world because I was using e- e-collars, electronic collars. Now, I should probably mention this. I hate saying the word electronic, which is why I call them electric collars. I know that's not technically correct, but that's why we shorten it to e-collars. So if anyone wants to come at me for saying electric collars, please understand that I do actually know what I'm talking about, and that's not what they called. I just don't like saying that word. But yeah, the threats on social media started getting out of hand, and so I started posting less and less, and I watched the fighting get worse and worse in Facebook groups, and I just got fed up with it all. And then the final straw happened when I met a woman who at the time was a dog walker, but she wanted to become a dog trainer, and I said to her like, "Hey, I'm happy to teach you everything that I know. Like, it's It's the least that I can do because I do enjoy educating. That's why I'm sitting here in an empty room feeling uncomfortable talking into a microphone right now. But yeah, I worked with this woman for over 2 years. I taught her everything that I know. I helped her set up her business. I was on late night calls with her when she had issues with her own dogs. And we ended up having one argument. And she just blew up in my face. She was accusing me of all kinds of weird stuff. And I just stopped talking to her essentially. And then 3 months later, she publicly goes out and recommends my direct competition. And at that point, I realized there was nothing left between us. We were going to be enemies for life. And so I blocked her on everywhere: phone, social media, email, whatever it was. And I just kind of moved on with my life. And then a couple of months after that, another trainer friend of mine, sends me a message saying she'd posted about me again, saying that the reason why she had imposter syndrome was because of all the horrible things that I taught her. She never said anything horrible about my training up until then, but here we are. Now, here's the thing. If you care more about hanging with the cool crowd than you care about training dogs, then you don't really have imposter syndrome. You are just an imposter at that point. Um, But yeah, that was the final straw for me. I'm like, nah, I'm not doing this. I'm signing off, and I'm just gonna run my own show, my own lone wolf path for the rest of my life. Anyways, um, I don't want to make this a depressing story or anything, but I think it's important to talk about this kind of stuff, because I feel like a lot of dog trainers are talking about how amazing everything is in the dog training and how great people are and blah, blah, blah. And that is just the complete opposite of the experience that I had. So if any new trainers who are getting into the industry listening to this, I want you to know that if you're not having the euphoric experience that so many people talk about, that's normal. It happens, right? Now, I want to get on to the next bit because uh, while I'm not really involved in the dog training space in the social on social media and that kind of stuff anymore, I do have extremely good friends, trainer friends, and like people that I would consider friends before dog trainers. And it's very easy to get trapped in an echo chamber in this industry where you think you have all the answers, you think you know all the techniques, and you kind of you create this little funnel for yourself that you can never get out of. And I'm very aware that that is a big problem. And this is why I have really good friends that are excellent trainers that I want to get onto the show, hopefully at some point, to talk about what we do. But we all do quite different things, which helps me be able to keep an open mind, always learn something new, always push forward. Um, but yeah, I want to talk about the turning point that happened probably about 18 months ago. I was called out to help with the Dutch Shepherd, a woman who was having issues with her Dutch Shepherd. And look, I get this email a lot where people say, like, hey, you're our last chance. If you don't fix this problem, the dog goes to the shelter, gets euthanized. And this woman was struggling with this dog and she was considering returning him to the shelter that she got him from. Now, we get out there, we meet up, and this guy is like fucking backflipping off my chest like your regular Dutchie would, right? But he was a particularly intense dog. And, anyways, we made massive progress in a short amount of time. And she said she'd been to every single trainer that she could find in the area that we live in. And I didn't actually live in the area at the time that she was looking for help with this dog, but I moved out just shortly after, and she'd been following me on social media, and she said like, "Hey, I just had to meet you to see if you could create some results with this dog." And we actually ended up becoming really good friends, and we ended up meeting up regularly and working with him and bringing my dog along and just having fun. And over time, we kind of met more and more people and we started hanging out with more and more people. So people who are primarily dog training enthusiasts, I would say. You know, people with super high drive dogs that want to do fun shit with their dogs. But in this day and age, what we tend to see is a lot of trainers are just trying to suppress drive rather than playing with it and having fun with it. And instead of having fun with their dogs and understanding who their dog actually is, they try to hammer a square peg through a round hole and make the dog something that it's not. And that's something you're going to see a lot as a trainer. If you're a training student and you're getting into the industry, unfortunately, a lot of what you're going to encounter is people saying, hey, I need you to fix this problem. And so it's important to find your group of people, and it's important to find a way of having fun with dogs as well, because it can be quite disheartening going from job to job and often, unfortunately, watching great dogs in the wrong home and you're being asked to fix that problem. That is unfortunately a lot of what we do. Um, but yeah, so we've started a regular club thing. So, you know, once a week, a bunch of people come here. They all bring their dogs. A lot of these dogs are pretty intense dogs. Some of them have aggression issues, but we hang out, we have fun, we talk about new things we've learned, we try new things with our dogs, we teach our dogs new things, and we just work through things in a group setting. It's just fun. We're sharing for freely. There's no ego happening at all. It's just a good bunch of people loving training dogs. And After about 8 years professionally in this industry, I finally found my people. And man, I'm grateful for that. I can tell you that. All right, enough marking around. I feel like this is turning into like a private therapy session for me, which is not what I wanted it to be. But again, like I said, you never really hear people talk about this stuff, and I think it's important to hear because it had me really down for a long period of time. But anyway, I guess if I was going to give myself some advice from, you know, 10 years ago when I first started getting into dog training is like, don't get super involved right off the bat. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Learn from everyone. Go everywhere. Listen. Hang out. Don't get emotionally involved. Don't get sucked into too much fighting. Find your own thing and learn everything you can about that thing. There are good people out there. Now, in my opinion, they are a little bit few and far in between, but there are amazing people out there. And yeah, just stay away from social media feuding. Right? Get out there. Get your hands on dogs. That's the most important thing. And a lot of people ask me, well, how do I get my hands on dogs? And honestly, in the early stages, you're probably going to struggle a little bit. Um, Finding a good mentor that will point you in the right direction and sending dogs to you is great if you can. But more and more these days, people are just not helping students anymore, which I just want to say right here, right now, I'll help any student that I can whenever I can, because I think it's important that we raise the new lot of trainers to be really good fucking trainers and to be passionate about this and to be experienced and to combat a lot of the shit that's happening in this industry. So I'll help out whenever I can. Um, but yeah, I started fostering. I had dogs sent to me on a daily basis, and some of these dogs had aggression issues. They had separation anxiety. They had all kinds of behavioral issues that we didn't know they had because they were just picked up, shipped to us, and after 2 days of living in our house, we saw who the dog really was. And rescues are in dire need of help these days. So if you can volunteer your time to a rescue, absolutely do that. Same with shelters. Most shelters are just dying for people to help them out. So even if you can take half a day a week just to get 2, 3 dogs out, take them for a walk, teach them how to loose lead walk, teach them how to relax, learn how to play with these dogs. A lot of these dogs are so shut down, they're not motivated by anything. And if you can find a way of driving up their engagement and making them want to hang with you, right? It's going to make a world of difference for the dog, but it's also going to be great social media content for you because there's probably a million dog trainers that all have Malinois, and Malinois are fucking intense dogs, but they're also super easy to work with if you know what you're doing. Watching a Malinois healing isn't quite as impressive as watching like a King Charles Spaniel healing, know what I mean? And in shelters, you'll find a lot of problem dogs, of course, and just watching that interaction between them, watching how they get triggered by the surrounding environment, all of this is amazing learning. And if you can start doing amazing work with those kind of dogs, you are not only helping the dogs, you're helping the shelters, you're giving these dogs a second chance, and you have material to promote yourself. Buy a tripod, stick your camera in that tripod, teach that dog how to loose lead walk in 5 minutes, and you have got something to post that shows that you can actually do the work. But yeah, I think I to finish it all off, I always come back to this saying about, when you're going through hell, keep going. The dog industry is a tough one. I can tell you that for sure. At least in my experience, it's been particularly tough. But stress is to be withstood, not avoided or crumbled to. I'm going to be talking a lot about stress and how we build confidence, how we build strong, powerful dogs. But it is very easy to crumble under the pressure of becoming a dog trainer very early on. And it's very easy to want to learn everything, but pretty much no trainer does everything. Again, I take on any dog, I'll take on any issue, but if someone comes to me with separation anxiety, I'm more likely to send that to another trainer because I know a lot of other trainers that are better at that particular thing than I am. But the same way that a lot of people send aggressive dogs to me because they don't want to work with aggressive dogs, or the dog is a little bit too much for them. But yeah, if you're going through hell, keep going. Don't give up. Keep pushing. The good people are there. Take your time. Ease into things. Don't get too invested in one particular thing, and you will find the spot that you fit into. And that is exactly what this industry need more of. And to any trainers out there that have been hesitant about taking on students, I mean, fuck, I would take on students on a daily basis if I could. And I'm always happy for students to come with me on jobs. And yeah, I think we need a little bit more encouragement to the new people that are getting into this industry. However, I'm starting to ramble now, so I'm going to call it a day there. Thank you so much for tuning in to the second episode of Beastly Talks. Again, please bear with me as I'm still getting used to sitting in an empty room talking into a microphone by myself. But I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you'll come back for the next one. Now, go train your dog. Thank you, and goodbye.